I'm really, really excited about the way it ends. For one, because it's New Currents music, but two, it comes out on my birthday, June 5th.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I am fucking pumped about this record. I've listened to it twice today alone, and absolutely love everything about this album. It's album number 2 for you guys, full length number 2. Tell me a little bit about. It took 3 years to complete the record, and there's some very deep, it's not a dark record, but there's some dark subjects that you guys touch on and really go really deep into on this record. What was it like for you guys writing this record and some of these songs with how emotional some of this stuff is?
It's always kind of interesting because the lyric writing process for me is very like, I'll just kind of sit down and put everything together like on my own, and then I'll bring it over to like Chris, our guitar player, who's like the main instrumental composer, and then we'll go back and forth and kind of figure things out where they're supposed to go and get things right before we kind of send it off to everybody and get any producers involved or anything. But we'll be sitting there with like a producer or like the full band,
right?
And when we send the songs out to everybody, like we're not like in person. We're just like here, like everybody can listen to the tracks that we're working on like on their own time. But then it's like when you're physically sitting down with everybody, really trying to pick the songs apart, it gets kind of weird because it's like there's like really like there's a couple like really messed up like dark like personal lines on the record, and we have to sit there in a room with literally my whole band and just talk about it.
Right.
So
yeah, that'd be.
It sometimes it's weird. Usually it'll be like one line will go through and it's like, oh, all right, well that's that.
It's like, well, that's there. That happened.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Is it kind of therapeutic when you're doing that too? Because I mean, you're talking about certain lines, certain lyrics, certain even words, and a lot of these things I would assume come from personal experiences in your life and yourself. I mean, is it kind of therapeutic when you're writing those songs, when you're getting, when you put them to paper, put them to music, listening back to it and kind of talking about it with the other guys? Or is it just kind of, this is what we do?
Yeah, it's kind of just what we do. It's definitely when we're writing the songs, I'm feeling whatever is going on, or maybe it brings me back to something that I'm trying to kind of manifest to make the song happen. But there's definitely been a couple times where a song felt weird for me to play live just because of how just because of the lyrical content, but a lot of times over like, playing it over and over and talking to people about it, over time it kind of just, it calms down and you're just kind of performing the songs and it feels like you're just playing, you're just playing a song that you've played a ton of times and, you just want to approach it the same way and perform it the best you can, but you're not necessarily like feeling those things as you're performing it for like the 100th time,
That makes sense. And when it finally gets to the point where it's like it's just another song, and sometimes that's got to be kind of relieving because it's like I can finally, I'm past it. But is it kind of weird when fans come to and be like, those are songs that like they're going through that right now, but you're past it, and they're coming to you being like, this helped me through this, this, and this, and you're like, well, now I got to go back to it. But I mean, is that kind of a weird feeling when that happens? I mean, what is that like on your end? Because now it's just a song, and to the fans, it's, we're hearing it for the first time now sometimes, or seeing it live for the first time.
Yeah, that definitely will happen where somebody will, like, they'll want to talk about a song that drudges up a lot of weird emotions, or it's like, hey, can you tell me the meaning behind this song or that song? And it's like, Oh man, like I gotta talk about this
You're like,
again.
you're like, I can, but I don't want to, but I can, you know.
Yeah, it is what it is, and you know, it's just kind of a thing of, you know, somebody wants to know something, they want to hear it from you. Okay, yeah, let's talk about it.
Right. One thing, I mean, this is one thing that I love is the first track, the intro, which I don't know if you can call that a legitimate intro or if it's just like a short song, but to me it sounds like an intro to the rest of the record, the way it plays out. And to me, a good intro is everything, because right there, that's one really good way to start a live show when you're doing that one there, whether it's just playing or whether you're performing it. But how important is it to have a good, whether it's an intro or a good first song to kick off the record? Because It Was Never There is exactly that for this record.
Yeah, that I'm glad you mentioned that. I love that track, and it's one of those things where we've never really done that. We had that song, we had Apnea, and we had Into Despair, where they're both songs they're the first track on the releases, and they kind of have a long intro, but it's not an intro track.
Yeah, exactly. So, they're legitimate, like 2, 3, 4 minute long. They're songs. They're not like a minute and 10 or whatever. They're
right.
Yeah.
But they have like a kind of a long, drawn out beginning. This was our first time actually kind of segmenting a piece that was going to go at the front of the record. Initially, I thought it might be like an interlude of sorts, maybe in between the record, to kind of move things into another direction on like the second half, maybe. But as we were arranging the songs, it just made sense to put it first and have it be right there and be the intro, just because I think it's so like it's much more simple instrumentally, and it's a lot more intense lyrically and vocally than I feel like a lot of the tracks really go to, and I think it sets the tone very well, like where the record, like as dark as the record can get.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I mean, there's two types of heavy. There's like musically heavy, which, you know, the album is musically heavy, but then there's a lyrically heavy. And sometimes when a song is lyrically heavy, but not necessarily instrumentally heavy, it's more powerful, because a lot of times when the lyrics do the talking more than the music, it just is that much more. It's a stronger song sometimes, I feel like, and that's exactly what this one is in a lot of ways. It's a cool song. But you guys, just like the record before and releases before, you guys combine a lot of different, maybe just subgenres, styles, stuff like that. How important is that to do for yourselves, but also for the listeners?
I don't know. I feel like we just kind of do whatever we want to do.
Sure.
It's this kind of thing where Chris is always trying to come up with new ideas and new ways to work on familiar structures.
Yeah.
And I will basically make it my job to try to complement whatever it is that he's trying to do and fit the music that he is writing.
Sure.
So it stretches me because he just has such diverse tastes. Like we both do, but he, you know, that translates a lot into like the music that he writes.
Yeah.
And he writes a lot of music, so I think it's important for him too to have a lot of variety, and it helps me out a lot because it pulls me out of my shell and then forces me to be more creative.
Yeah, and speaking of creative, the Poverty of Self video is fucking insane. It's amazing. And that's a very creative video. It's artistic too. Where did the idea for that video kind of come from initially? Who came up with that? And for anybody that hasn't seen it, can you kind of talk about what happens in that video, what you're seeing?
So it's a concept that I initially came up with and then brought to Burke, who filmed the video, and you know, he had offered some input and suggestions along the way as well. But the idea is that we're setting up the events that cause the album cover. of the way it ends. So, and I wanna go more into what that is.
Sure.
Hopefully with like more videos and all that. But basically, what's happening is this person is summoning the void, or they're trying to summon something, and they summon, but this is what comes out when they draw their blood and put it into this, bed of roses, and now we have this crazy apocalypse that our characters in the front cover are now diving right into.
Yeah. The cover is one thing that really stood out, and I wanted to ask what, kind of the meaning behind the album cover, and that right there is really cool. And I feel like that's just for people in general, but I feel like it's a lot more common with metalheads, especially myself. It's when a lot of times when you sit down to try and look into yourself and figure out what's going on, you summon up a lot more feelings and things that you didn't necessarily mean to bring up, and it makes it a lot harder. And I don't know why, but I feel like that's a lot. It's common in metal with a lot of us that happens a lot. So it's really cool that you guys are kind of touching on that subject, because that's what fans flock to the most. And fans have really connected with this music, with the video, and all that stuff. The comments have been overwhelmingly positive, and there's been some great comments that have popped up. Kind of, it's got to be kind of validating when you see that much positive, overwhelmingly positive feedback coming from the fans.
Yeah, it's been great. We are always trying to make sure we're making the right move, we're making the right moves musically, and trying to keep things moving forward for the band in every way, and to have a nice supportive fan base that is just kind of stoked to hear some new music. And even if they hear a track and they're not entirely stoked on the direction that it's going for that track, they're still oh well, I'm excited to hear the rest of the record. And I think that's important, is that people don't seem to expect one particular thing from us. And I think that is super helpful in our kind of quest to always try new things and do things that are different from what we've done before.
Yeah, and it took just around 2.5, 3 years or so between the last record and this one to kind of complete, and by the time it comes out, it'll be around that time. And when fans are kind of taking a step back and saying, we're cool with whatever you guys do, we want to hear it, and then the feedback is, like you said, not stoked about one, but others love it. Does it make that easier when you're writing it? I mean, because I know you're not writing necessarily for people, you're writing really for yourselves. But when a record takes around 2-3 years like this one did, is that just because that was kind of what you guys wanted to do? When you sat down to do it, it's just more content kept coming, more subjects kept coming out, more lyrics kept kind of molding and taking shape, and it just kind of took, that long? Or is that kind of what you guys thought it was going to do?
Well, a lot of times when we will sit down to do any kind of release and it gets further along in the process, things start to change a lot, and then you kind of it's hard to have a really concrete idea of what you want the record to end up being by the end, because you also want to be there and ready for it to progress and change in a way that you didn't expect. So it's hard to really deeply conceptualize a lot of the artwork and the story of the album until everything is pretty much everything has been tracked, everything has been recorded in finality, and everything is pretty much in the last stages of mixing.
Gotcha.
And everything is kind of arranged. And then that's kind of when everything starts to take shape and fall into place. Gotcha.
That makes sense. One song that really stood out to me is Monsters. I don't know why. The lyrics and just the musical style of that one really stands out. What does a song like that mean to you as the songwriter? And are there any songs in particular that you personally kind of migrate more towards than others when you sit down and look at the final product and the songs in their entirety now?
I definitely, so Monsters is a cool one because
Yeah.
that song for me personally, that came out very quickly and easily. I don't think I've ever had a song come out that fast since Into Despair, which that was like another really quick one for me personally, because I don't know, something about it, I was just feeling it, and all of like the first kind of instincts as far as like placement and like lyrics went, they just kind of felt like they were in the right place, because sometimes it's like pulling teeth, but that song in particular, I was like, I had the chorus done, the verses and everything. Like, I don't think that song really even changed much from the studio to like demos. It just felt like it was like solid all the way around. But that song, it's about kind of like toxic relationships and how you can kind of degenerate each other mentally, and then now you're playing this blame game of, well, you turned me into this and I turned you in there, but it's like, well, I feel like you turned me into this, and it's like this that's kind of what the song is about in a way, like I'm not the one to blame for the monsters we become, it's both of us. But yeah, I definitely I like that song, and I always feel myself kind of coming back to Let Me Leave. That I think is one of my favorite tracks on the record.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of those songs that I think is a good example of like none of the songs sound alike. Every song is very different, and that song in general has a very, very distinctive identity, and really stands. It's just a completely different vibe than the rest of the songs on the record, and that's one that stands out as well. I think for sure. Absolutely, just awesome song. But you guys right now, I think later this week, we're originally going to be over in the UK or Europe, I think, with Polaris and a couple other bands. Obviously, that's not the case right now. I mean, what's this year looking like for you guys? Has the COVID pandemic kind of just put everything on hold? But are you guys still booking or anything right now? Or are you just kind of waiting to see what happens before you start booking again?
On that front, we're kind of just chilling. We're so we had a few cancellations that we're pretty bummed about. Yeah. But pretty much around the time we found out that tour was canceled, we were given an offer for another tour at a later date. That is still very sick, and it goes to like Europe and the UK and all that. And that was initially slated for the end of 2020, but they might push it back a little further now. Right. But hopefully that still maintains its coolness, because it's a really sweet tour. Hopefully all the bands are still able to do it by the time that they hopefully are able to reschedule it. Right. We had a couple other plans for the end of the year, but it all looks like super tentative now. So it's kind of just throwing our hands up in the air and getting ready to be home for a little bit, Does it make it easier with the pandemic going on when you have a new record on the horizon coming out in like a month? Because it's like, it's not like you're in the tail end of an album cycle or in the middle of it. Now you're just sitting at home when you could be out like playing new music. Like, you have the record coming now, and so the beginning of the record cycle is coming. I mean, does that make it any easier at all, knowing that, at least you have something good coming? It makes it easy for these early stages of the pandemic, where we're kind of just, everyone's all kind of getting used to what the hell is going on. Right. Because it's like, okay, well, we're still kind of working. We're still here. We're still here doing this. We're still here trying to like push the record and all that. And so it gives us something to look forward to and something to kind of focus our sights on. Right. But I definitely worry about the after. It's like, we'll see what happens in like August, September when the record's out. Hopefully it maintains its momentum. Maybe, hopefully by the time we get to finally play these songs live, it's met with, holy shit, I can't believe I'm hearing these songs live now. And not, oh, wow, this is old news.
Right. At least by the time you guys are able to play the songs live, fans will have finally had a chance to sit down and kind of learn the lyrics, learn and absorb the songs, let them sink in, and the fans will know the new music really well by the time they get to see it live, which I feel like is going to help immensely when it comes time to play the songs live, because sometimes fans don't always get as involved when it comes to new music and new songs, so they don't really know it that well. But now fans are going to know everything, and just it opens up all sorts of doors for what you can play live and what fans are going to know, and you'll know what songs fans really like the most that what you can play live too. So that'll kind of help, I think.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way, because it's like, all right, cool, you have, the record is out, and now you have all this time to, like, just enjoy it and learn it, and now by the time, like, we get to come to your city, like, you'll probably know, like, most of it.
Yeah.
And then someone on our team made a joke the other day. He was like, by the time the guys get out there and, like, go to perform these songs, they'll probably already have, like, another record done.
I hope that.
Honestly,
I hope there's not two new albums by the time that happens. I mean, oh man, with new music, great, but man, at this point, I would be okay like watching a live stream of a concert live. At this point, I mean, we just need live music back, man. It's only been a month and a half, 2 months. It's been the longest 2 months ever. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'll happen. I think it's because Code Orange already proved that you can do it, and it's possible to go in and just do like a live show. I would like to treat it like if we were able to do something like that, even if it's not at the time of like the record's release, some kind of like live stream like set / like hang sesh. That could be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I know Dropkick Murphys did a live stream concert on St. Patrick's Day or somewhere around that, and it did really, really well. A lot of people watched that. So, things can be done. It's just bands are trying to figure out, and management is trying to figure out what the best thing is to do that fans are going to be interested in seeing and being involved in, I think. And nobody knows. So, it's all trial and error at this point. So, yeah, it sucks.
Exactly. And we still have time to figure it out at least, just because I feel like no one's going to be tugging on our shirts to get out there and try to do something until at least the record has been out for like a little bit, and we're going to try to figure something out to do it right, because we still want to celebrate like the record's release. It's just it's a fun little puzzle of how we're going to do it.
Exactly.